as you have better eyes, you understand what is important, because you can just see it a little bit better. Another analogy, you know the game of chess. Probably most of you at least have a concept of what the game of chess is. So, what distinguishes a good from a bad chess player? You should not ask me, because I'm not so good. But they've asked this to people who are really good, and what do they say? People like Kasparov, what does he say? He says, well, I look at those pieces on the board that matter. There are 64 fields, right? There's 32 pieces. And so just looking at what matters most makes it you can focus on those pieces and figure out the moves that can be made. You can approach like a computer and take every move you can possibly make, add the move the opponent can make, the move you can then make, and the move the opponent can make, and just calculate the whole game and calculate what would be the best move. Very tedious, takes a lot of computer effort. Now computers are powerful and they can beat humans. But it is not an efficient approach. So you are not a computer, you're a human. You have a brain like a human. I hope we can teach you to see what is important and to focus on that. And I know that that is difficult, but we'll try. Better loopers, viewers. Okay, cells. Cell theory. Just explain what theory is. So what is a cell? It has a theory about that. Every organism is composed of one or more cells. Okay. The cell is the structural unit of life. Those of you who are happy in life 1 or 2 know that I'm a huge fan of the book by Campbell. And Campbell uses a lot of themes, and he's also talking about what are the different properties of life. So what are properties of life? Reproduction, response to the environment, energy conversion, motion sometimes, reproduction, I said, right? Anyway, anything life does, cells do. That's really what makes the cell the basic structural unit of life. So, that's that. And then new cells only arise from pre-existing cells. So cells arise by division from pre-existing cells. As I've indicated in the colors here, the names of people who came up with these ideas. Do I care about them that much? Not so much right now. What I'm indicating in blue is more a comment. I don't care that much. If I would, I would tell you. Okay, so what is then a cell? Cell is an aqueous compartment and the membrane around it that encloses it. That's an aqueous compartment and the membrane around it that encloses it. And it's capable of, typically, and formed by division. And it's the smallest unit of life. Okay, so a compartment with a membrane around it. What is a membrane? We'll get to that. It's a semi-permeable barrier that encloses our compartment. We have different types of cells, and that's what makes biology so interesting, is we're looking at a huge variety of organisms. A huge variety of organisms. But we can make some classifications, and one easy classification is to just distinguish cells with a nucleus from cells that do not have a nucleus. So we have what we call the prokaryotes, cells without a nucleus, and cells with a nucleus, the eukaryotes. So the Greek word for nucleus is karyon. So prokaryon means cells from before there were nuclei, and eukaryotes means cells with a real nucleus. Okay, then we have that. Okay. Now, if we look at the prokaryotes, we have once again 2 major groups, which are called bacteria and then the archaea. And this diagram here, I can't point out this diagram here gives us a view of the diversity of life, where we look at basically all of the groups of life. So we can see here the prokaryotes, that's the bacteria and the archaea. Here's where I want to use my pen. And here's where the eukarya are. Alright. This should be a K really. Because words of a Greek origin should be written with a K, not with a C. Okay. So eukarya, here's us, we are animals, believe it or not. We are animals, so we are in that group. And you can see we are actually very close to the fungi and the plants. Now, this is a diagram. What does a diagram depict? The diagram depicts genetic difference as measured by means of the changes that we see between organisms in a certain gene that we think is typically very conserved. And that's ribosomal DNA. So our ribosomes are involved in protein synthesis, and there are RNA molecules. There are genes that encode for these RNA molecules and tend to be very conserved. So the RNA in our ribosomes between us and other animals is almost the same. And then when we go to the fungi, there's a little bit more of a change. But we're still pretty close to the fungi when we compare to any of these other organisms. And the length here on the tree branches indicates the number of differences. So it's proportional to the genetic difference. So what you see, we are very close to the plants and the fungi when you look at this scale, right? And here, so we're pretty far when it comes to this scale from the bacteria and the archaea. Now, we'll actually see later some interesting aspects. One thing is that some of our organelles are actually very close to the bacteria here. We have some extra structures in our cells that we call organelles. And for instance, our mitochondria are very closely related to some bacteria. On the other hand, our machinery for reproducing DNA and making proteins, we actually have a pretty system that's pretty common or pretty similar to what's going on in these archaea. Alright, good to know we are here far out in the tree of life. We are mainly in this class looking here. We should know there's a lot of diversity going on. Okay. Then there's the viruses. Viruses are not really cells, they're derived from cells, they're parasitic structures. By the end of the class, we'll look a little bit more at the viruses. They replicate in the cell, they hijack the host machinery. The infectious particle that exists outside of the cell, we call that the virion. That's typically a nucleic acid, which is surrounded by a protein cap and sometimes also a membrane. We'll look at those structures later. Prokaryotic viruses have a name, they're called phages. It's thought that the viruses are derived from their host cell. So, pretty much, if we go back here, each of these groups will have their own viruses. Their viruses are, they share the most similarity with their hosts in terms of their machineries that they will have. Okay, I've talked enough. If you still need a syllabus, you can come pick it up. I'd like to get your little information with your name, your major, and whatever, right? Let's see if I can find that back. So, doing this, and I'll see you here on Friday. One final thing. I hope you'll have fun in this class this year.